Hello, welcome once again to Pale Blooms and Beyond. Thank you for joining us today. If you do like the programming you see here and the artists and musicians that I visit with, please be sure and hit the like button below and also subscribe to the channel. Joe O'Donnell is a classically trained violinist from Ireland who has played in the folk rock band, the Woods Band, and with prog rockers East of Eden. Early on during the 60s, Joe would play in the bands Granny's Intentions, Sweet Street, and briefly with psych rock pioneers Orange Machine. Mr. O'Donnell would also pioneer the development and use of the electric violin. In the mid-70s, Joe would play in the band Headstone. See my interviews with Mark Ashton and Steve Bolton. Joe would go on to play on prog rock band Jade Warrior's 1976 album Kites, as well as form his own band in the late 70s. After securing a deal with Decca, Joe would record his own album, Gail's Vision, which would include Rory Gallagher on guitar. The album was acclaimed at the time of release and remains a collector's item to this day. During the 80s, Mr. O'Donnell played in various bands, including the Electric Ceilidh Band. And most recently, my guest can be found fronting the band Shkayla. Well, welcome, Joe.
Thank you very much, and the same to you.
Thank you for being here and taking time out to visit. Well, take us back to the beginning. Where were you born?
I was born in Limerick City, which is in the southwest of Ireland.
Okay. Do you recall early on hearing music in the household growing up?
Well, yeah, both my folks were a sort of amateur operatic people in musicals and things in Limerick, and my mum was always, God rest her, around the house singing. She must have had an amazing repertoire of songs. I hardly ever heard the same one twice.
Yes,
So
you had that.
both my uncles, my uncle Gerard was involved with Columbia in America with the Richard Harris film Cromwell and that. And other uncle, Uncle Pat in Birmingham, was an amateur sort of classical violinist. And that's really where I got the interest, because he used to come home at Christmas sometimes to see his sister, my mum. Yeah. And he brought the violin with him, and I just got interested in it from there, really.
Really? So you had that musical gene throughout the family and your relatives.
I'm afraid so, yes.
You were destined. You were destined to.
Well, guilty, Your Honor.
Well, that's not a bad upbringing at all. So was the violin the first instrument you learned to play?
It was, yes.
Okay.
I picked the most difficult to start with.
Did you?
But I went on, when I became a teenager, when I was in Granny's Intentions, I played guitar.
Okay.
I was lead, inverted commas, guitar in the band.
Okay. Was it difficult switching from violin to guitar?
No, I had an interest in guitar because, again, my Uncle Pat played a little bit of guitar as well.
Yeah.
But I just loved the 60s music, and it made me want to play guitar, because also I just couldn't, at that time, I couldn't see the application of violin apart from the orchestral things that were happening in the 60s with Dusty Springfield and all them, you know.
Right, exactly. Yes. Well, can you remember early on, were you collecting, did you have brothers and sisters?
Yes, one of each, and one that was killed in an accident way before I was born. Yeah.
Before you were born. Okay. Were you collecting singles or albums early on?
Oh yeah. I mean, it started as soon as the 60s started happening. But unfortunately, in Limerick, you couldn't get everything because it was a bit of a backwater. And in Ireland in general, they didn't really, a bit like England, they weren't really into the 60s music. But we used to get stuff sent in from America. Some guys on ships would bring stuff in because Limerick being a port. And you'd hear little bits. When we used to listen to like Caroline and all that sort of not really, because the main station, which was RTE, they really didn't countenance any of that, you know.
Oh, yeah, I had an interview not long ago with a guy who was a DJ at Radio Caroline South, I believe it was South. Yeah, and he talked about his time there, you know, playing all the 45s and everything. Well, can you recall one of the first concerts or live shows that you attended that you went to?
Yeah, well, when it started to open up a little in Limerick, they had things like what they called beat shows,
Oh,
which were, there was about 4 or 5 local bands around at that time. So I had a little band and we did the first beat show in Limerick. And from then on, I got an offer to join Granny's Intentions.
okay. All right. We'll pick up the story there. Granny's with Gary Moore. Yeah. Pick up
Gary
the
Moore,
story with joining Granny's Intentions. Yeah.
yeah, well, I was in the early formation, but because of my school commitments, when they moved to Dublin, I couldn't go, and they also needed a better. I wasn't a great guitar player at that stage, but they needed a better guitar player, which they got, and was prepared to move to Dublin.
Oh,
And from there, they moved to London.
okay. All right. Did you were you on any recordings with Granny's Intentions?
No,
Okay.
no, we did. I mean, as I said again, it was really the whole scene was in its infancy at that point, particularly in Ireland, and more particularly in Limerick and places like that, you know.
Right, right.
Cork, on the other hand, was a little bit more advanced, which is why Rory came out of there, you know. And
Oh,
Dublin was even more advanced. They had like quite a lot of beat clubs, what they were called at that time. And there was a lot of crosstalk between bands in Northern Ireland and bands in Dublin in particular.
okay. All right, all right. Well, Sweet Street. This is the first time I've heard of that band. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that was when Granny's went to Dublin. I was actually at a bit of a loose end. I didn't know what to do at that stage.
Okay.
And I met one of the singers who had also left Granny's Intentions at that time. And I met him in one of the coffee bars that we used to frequent in Limerick.
Yeah.
And he more or less said to me, it was the time that the new Animals with Eric Burdon, had just had a single out, San Francisco Nights.
Oh, yes.
And he said that Willie Weeder, who I met later on years ago, later in London, Willie Weeder was a bass player, but he also played a bit of violin. And he said, Cha, which is the singer, said, why don't you play violin? So I thought that was a really good idea. But of course, amplifying a violin at that stage was, excuse me, a bloody nightmare.
I can imagine it was.
There was nothing around, nothing. And we had no information because there was no internet, no crosstalk really between musicians in England and London in particular, and Ireland, you know, because Ireland still hadn't really made its mark at that stage in London, you know.
Yes, yes, exactly. Yes, and we'll get to that about the development of the electric violin. Well, then came the Orange Machine.
Yeah,
and there were a couple of singles released with that band.
that's right. In particular, You Can All Join In was written by Dave Mason in Traffic.
Yeah, okay, Dave Mason. Yes, yes.
They did a cover version, but that was the more sort of pop side of Orange Machine. That unfolded, and we had the remnants of that band and a bass player from Northern Ireland and myself, which was the Orange Machine that I was in. And that was a lot more free-blowing basses, if you know what I mean, in terms of we used to. I'm surprised that anybody in the gigs that we did could put up. I mean, we used to gig for, or at least solo, for like maybe 15 minutes at a time, all on Indian ragas and stuff like that, you know?
Yes, yes, right.
So
Yes, I
It
like the
was like
raga sound. Yes.
it
Go
was
ahead.
like the Dave Mason type band at that stage, if you know what I mean.
Uh, well, yeah, I have a song on a various artist collection. That's where I first heard of Orange Machine,
Uh-huh.
and I'm not sure if you were on it. I don't think you were. Real Life Permanent Dream. Do you remember that?
No.
Real Life Permanent. Yeah, it was the B side to Three Jolly Little Dwarfs.
Oh yeah, yeah. That was their first big
That
single.
was their first one, right, right. So that's how the band first came to my attention. Yes, yes.
You
Well,
said
go
you
ahead.
said on your homework.
Yeah, well, I try to. I try to, you know, and a lot of artists I find out about through these various artist compilations. You know, that's how I, you know, discover them. Um, and so I try to dig a little bit deeper, you know, and not just the surface bands, you know, or the ones that were real popular. Well, another band that I'm not familiar with, the Uptown Band.
Yeah, that was a Dublin band. They basically when Orange Machine. This was before Orange Machine, in fact.
Oh, was
I
it?
did. I can't remember where they spotted me, but I got a call to go to Dublin to know when I do some work with this band called the Uptown Band. And the famous person in particular was a keyboard player called David Lennox, who moved to London with the band, the Uptown Band, but ended up playing with just about everybody from Ginger Baker to God knows who.
Yes. You would work with him later on too.
Yes, I mean, a fantastic keyboard player, an absolute brilliant, brilliant keyboard. He's just died about a year ago, which is
Oh,
tragic.
oh, did he? Did he? Okay. That is that. You know, it's happening more and more. I mean, the older
Yeah,
you get, you know, I
we're
mean,
all getting old,
you're
mate.
getting. So, you know, I tell people, I said I should have started doing this 10, 15 years ago. You know, and I could have talked to a lot of those that have passed on. But I
Yeah,
say I have to get you guys while I can, you
well,
know, right? Well, why
hopefully
did you?
got a little time, yes.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Well, well, the flip side of that is the people are living longer these days. So, you know,
Yeah.
that's a good sign too, you know.
Well,
So,
I'm not really sure in view of the excesses we in,
early on.
subscribed to when we
Yes.
were younger, if that's the case with any of us.
Yes, yes. I know I'm thinking that eventually that's going to catch up to me as well. Yeah. Well,
Should
what?
worry about it.
Yes, yes. I have my coffee right here too. So it's a Texas size coffee mug, yeah. So
Oh yeah, that looks yeah. Well, you certainly don't do that now, do you?
my wife deals she works in promotional products, you know, for companies. And
Oh,
so
well,
she's always coming up with things like this. They'll get free samples, you know. It holds a lot of coffee, so it'll get me through the day.
excellent.
Yes, yes, yes. So why did you relocate to London in 1971?
Yeah. Well, basically, um, the Orange Machine sort of came to an end just before we moved to London. The drummer um, joined RTE as a disc jockey and didn't want to move to London because, to be honest, we didn't really get that many gigs in Ireland. One of the reasons being the ragas, and second of all, because of the material that we were covering, because we we just started to write at that stage. But the drummer, Jimmy Greeley, left to go to RTE, excuse me, and
Mhm.
we decided to move to London
Okay, okay.
because I thought we'd have a better chance.
Right. Well, and the other thing was if you really wanted to make it, you needed to go to London
Yeah,
at that
yeah.
time.
There wasn't that infrastructure to do with any singles other than Irish bands, as in show bands and stuff.
Show bands,
They
exactly.
more or less ran everything.
Okay, right, right. And those were basically bands that did cover material that covered.
Yeah, sometimes not very good. But there were some, I mean,
Okay.
Eric Bell from the original Thin Lizzy was in the show.
Yeah.
Rory Gallagher was in the show band.
Yeah.
So there was quite a few of them that, and obviously some of them were really good players, but they couldn't get a gig anywhere else. Beat clubs didn't pay that well, you know.
Right, and then of course the Miami show band. We know what happened there. So
yes, of course, two of the Miami that were killed were members of a band called the Chosen Few in Ireland, who were an absolute fantastic band.
Yes,
they were a bit like Traffic.
Right. That's tragic.
It is. Yeah,
really
it was all a mistake. Apparently, someone said that they were trying to plant a bomb in the car, so that, in the van, so that it would blow up as they entered Dublin. Yeah. But it all went wrong, and then there was a whole lot of shooting and stuff, and people obviously got killed, you know.
Yes, that is definitely sad. Sad day.
The Irish are really good at killing one another.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go there, but that has happened. Well, once in London, you joined the Woods band with Terry and Gay.
Yes. Again, I had a little band which was doing some of the circuit in London at the time, but again, not doing a great deal because we couldn't find management, which was the key to everything at that stage. Yeah. But myself and the drummer got a call in a house that we were sharing in Chiswick, and it was Terry Woods looking for people. You know, incidentally, Terry's original drummer, Paddy Nash, was one of the members of the Uptown Band.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
He was the drummer in Uptown Band. Yeah. And Ed Dean, the guitar player, his original guitar player, was one of Branny's original guitar players.
Yes. I visited with Ed probably a couple of years ago now. Yeah. Oh, okay. I had to like twist his arm, behind his back. I had to really coerce him to do it, but he finally gave in.
Yeah, he's a bit tiring.
But
he was the first guitar player I saw using a Dan Armstrong see-through.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Guitar.
Okay.
Yeah. Best of my knowledge, he was a good slide player.
Yeah. He was a super nice guy, though. Once
he is.
Once he opens up and starts talking, Well, did you play on the Woods band on the '71 album? Did you play on that one?
No, I played on an album called Backwoods.
Okay.
In fact, I think the drummer on that album was Mike Giles from King Crimson.
Oh, yes.
Of course, both of them were involved in Steelite. They were founder members.
Steelite band. And yes, they were. Yeah. And had a nice time, there with that band. Yes, I've got several of their albums on CD. Yes.
Oh, right.
Yeah, love their style, love their take of folk rock music on that too. Yeah. Well, then you began making electric violins. What got you interested in turning it up to the electric side?
Well, I thought, using a microphone through the early PA systems was a complete waste of time. Okay. Plus the fact you were restricted, you were tied to a mic. I like to move around a lot.
Okay.
And the first couple of things that presented themselves to me were D-arm and contact mics.
Okay.
They were notoriously unreliable due to feedback. So I got myself a big amp, and I built myself some speakers. And the amp in particular had a raised knob, master control on the amp. So I kept it on the ground on the deck, and I used to turn up the volume with my foot.
Oh, okay. All right.
That was all that was available to me. But then just before I moved from Dublin to London, I managed to get myself a shower bridge pickup.
Okay.
And that worked a little better. But when I got to London, two American guys, I think they were from California, and one of them sold me a Barker's Berry bridge, and there was no looking back after that. That was definitely a very superior product.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, are you familiar with the name Don Sugarcane Harris?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Jefferson Starship, was it Jefferson Airplane?
He was, yeah, he was the pioneer of the electric. Yes, he was on Hot Rats. He was on Burnt Weenie Sandwich, Frank Zappa.
I remember Hot Rats with Sugarcane Harris, yeah. But there was a couple more. There was David LaFlemme from It's a Beautiful Day.
Oh, It's a Beautiful Day. Yes, yes.
And of course, the master of all, Jerry Goodman with Flock.
Right. And Jean-Luc Ponty.
And Jean-Luc Ponty from way back, and Mahavishnu.
Yes, yes. So that's yeah. I mean, I like the sound of the electric violin. I like that. So there's been a few that have kind of mastered that sound over the years as well. So, well, let me ask you about in '73 you joined East of Eden.
Yeah.
What were the circumstances that led up to you joining the band?
Well, I was in a band called Trees, who were an English folk rock band. They were associated with members of the Shadows. I think the drummer's daughter is on the album cover of The Garden of Jane Maloney.
On the cover, yes, yes.
Yeah, and I got to know the guitar player very well, Barry Clark.
Okay.
And he was living near me, and he invited me around one day, and we put the violin through his stereo, and that opened my eyes to the possibility of having a better system, because stereo being a three-way system was much better than violin at the time. So that got me thinking on a whole different speaker arrangement setup.
All right.
But he just heard me at one gig or something and offered me the job, because again, their violinist, a guy called Chuck Fleming, who later had joined the JSD band.
Okay, okay, yes.
They were quite a famous band in England anyway. So I took the gig because it seemed right, but then they sort of folded because the lady singer, Celia Humphreys, married the English DJ John Drummond, and I think she wanted more to become involved in home things rather than singing. I mean, we were all secretly glad because she played a harmonium, and that was a bugger to move.
Oh, I imagine it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, there was an ad in Melody Maker, in Melody Maker saying multi-instrumentalist. So I rang up the ad and I was talking to them, and I went down and did the audition. I think it was in Morgan Studios, which is no longer around.
Yes.
It was a famous studio where Faces and all these people used to record.
Yes.
But it was between me and a guy called Mick Kaminsky, who
ELO.
ELO.
Yes, yes.
And oddly enough, when I put a Trees together after Trees broke up under the management, Anglo-American management, and we had the original Trees keyboard player by the show, and I had a sax player, drummer, and bass player myself, and that fizzled out for a while. But when that fizzled out, I saw this ad for multi-instrumentalist, and because they played a bit of mandolin and that as well at the time, I thought I'd stick my neck out and see what happens, you know. So I went and did the audition. It was between me and Mick Kaminsky, and enough, when I was looking for members of my Trees version, he came to the audition, and it was really good. He was a great player, but violins were just too close, so I got a sax player instead.
Oh, okay.
But I like so I got the gig with East of Eden, and within 2 weeks, I met him afterwards, and we were laughing about it. Within 2 weeks, he had a gig with ELO.
Then he joined ELO. That soon after, yeah, yeah. You mentioned the harmonium being hard to move around. Also, the mellotron was one that was so bulky and heavy. Yeah, that you didn't want to move it once you got it situated. You didn't want to have to move it again. Yeah,
Plus
yeah,
the fact that all the tapes got disturbed, and it was a real
yeah,
night with them back. But the harmonium that she had, Celia, was had been electrified, and we had a big pump, so you
yeah.
can imagine there was a huge amount of kick just for one keyboard, you know.
Oh yes, I can imagine that. Well, to pick up the story with East of Eden.
Okay, well, we just from I mean, I had a week to learn all the material to their first gig. So the first gig for me was a real nightmare, but I managed to get through it okay. And after that, they're really nice guys, absolutely top drawer, great musicians, and really nice people. And that was the first time really that touring was becoming a lot more pleasurable, because the truck and the equipment and the roadies went in the truck, obviously, and we had a car, and that was a luxury for me at that stage to actually go to gigs. And it was 4 of us to a car. It was very comfortable. It was a big Rover, and it was just fantastic.
Yes, yes. You didn't have the instruments falling all over the place and things like that,
Yeah.
like some bands.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, yeah,
It
at
was
that stage
comfortable.
everything was in flight cases, so we were all right.
Yes, it was more, yeah, more comfy. Well, with East of Eden, you did play on the album Another Eden.
I did, yes.
Yes. Do you recall the sessions, the recording sessions?
I do actually. Yeah, I remember we were down in a place called Escape Studios. I think Chapman and Chin, the songwriters, owned the studios, and it was in Kent. It's a lovely studio, and we were with Carlin Music at the time. But we towards the end of the album, when we were finished doing most of the overdubs and that, we did a disastrous financial tour of Europe. We did the Germany, Austria, Yugoslavia. We got to Yugoslavia, everything went wrong. Snow,
Oh,
we couldn't move, we couldn't get out of certain towns in Yugoslavia. The truck got stuck in the mountains. We had to get it hauled down. The engine block broke. We had to fly engine and mechanics in from Austria because it was Mercedes.
yes.
And we had to oxyacetylene to torch the doors to get the gear out to do the gig in Sarajevo.
Oh, did
And
you?
all the gigs, because of the delay and the weather,
Yeah.
all the gigs on the way back through Austria and Germany had to be cancelled, and we just lost a fortune.
Oh man, I'm.
So the band more or less split up at that
Oh, I'm
stage.
sorry to hear that. Wow.
Oh, that was one of those. It was a really happy times. There were great people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, that happened. Yeah, with Yugoslavia, that was way back before the wall came down. You
Oh
know.
yes,
Yeah,
Tito was in power. I remember we did one gig in a place called Ljubljana,
yeah, yeah.
and when we came out on stage, we just plugged in, and all of a sudden, like 9 soldiers armed with machine guns
Yeah,
ran out and stood right in front of the stage.
yeah.
I mean, that was like we looked at each other and went, "What's all this about?" You know.
Yeah,
But
never.
Tito was he just that
Yes,
was it. Everything was under his control, and people weren't allowed to sort of enjoy themselves with Western music so much.
right, right. And I've heard stories of bands that played during that time in the Eastern Bloc, and then those that had played afterwards, and they said how they would just afterwards they would just welcome the Western musicians with open arms and just they were so excited to just
Yeah, absolutely.
be
And I
able
mean,
to.
we had a couple of Yugoslav support bands
Oh, okay.
during that Yugoslav tour, and they were really good players, great singers. They would have done something in London had they moved, but Yugoslavia at that time, I believe, was so restrictive. I didn't have any problems at all because I had an Irish passport, and Ireland was, not considered a threat.
Right. only only Ireland, only unto itself, was a threat. Yeah, to its own
Yeah.
people. Yeah.
But we did a really big television show for ARD Berlin about midway through that time at East of Eden with Susie Quattro and the Straubs and all them. And I went across to the East Berlin.
Yeah.
I got a visa and I went across, and the contrast was unbelievable. They were like near the border, I think we went across the Brandenburg Gate, in fact. Near the border, there was and all the streets adjoining the Brandenburg, there were police cars at the top of the road and at the bottom of the road.
Yes, yes.
Like stationary all the time. And I was with a journalist from Melody Maker. We were having a bit of a laugh. We got on really well. And I dropped something near the wall, but I didn't see the tripwire, which is about 9 inches off the deck. And I put my foot across the deck over the wire, and the journalist just grabbed me and pulled me back because apparently there was a machine gun getting operational in the tower about 200 miles away.
Oh my goodness.
Really scary stuff, yeah.
Yeah, that would be scary. Oh man, I can't imagine that. No, I can't even imagine.
It was horrendous. And all the money, you had to change so much money to go to East Berlin. And then when you came back, you couldn't bring it back into the country. So you had to put it in this huge, enormous glass jar. And above the glass jar was funds for North Vietnam.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
It was.
Oh, they were all connected to that communist scene. Wow. I didn't know that they were supporting that too. Wow, that's something. Yeah, that's what I like doing these and hearing the backstories, because you find out so much. Well, moving on to Headstone, I told Steve Bolton that I'm going to end up talking to everybody that played in that band, and it wasn't, I didn't set out to do that. It just happened. First, Mark Ashton, because of Rare Bird, he was in Rare Bird, but then he was also in Headstone, and then Steve because of Atomic Rooster, being in Atomic Rooster, and then that tied him into Headstone. I was like, really, you're in Headstone too? And then now so it's like I'm going to end up talking to the whole band eventually.
Headstone was a really good band. I mean, a lot of things were taken care of, but Mark Ashton was his band.
Yeah.
And I mean, I did on the first album, Bad Habits, I did a session, and Bolton and I got on so well that I ended up getting the offer of a job to join the band. And it took about 4 months, I think, before the band actually started to come together. I'm sure you've got all the details from Mark anyway.
Yeah, and Steve, both of those guys. Yeah, it's inadvertently I'm talking to everybody. It's that's so wild that happens. But the more of these that I do, the more correlation and common threads that I find. With members, playing in the same bands and that kind of thing. Well, you would with Headstone, you would tour live with the band up until what, 78?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Mark. At that time, I think Mark wasn't terribly enamored with the band because the drummer, I don't know if you know drummer Peter Van Hook and the bass player Jerome Rimson. I mean, they in between gigs with Headstone, they were also touring with Van Morrison.
Right, that's right. Yes.
And of course, Jerome Rimson ended up playing with Lizzie, Thin Lizzie.
Yes, yes, exactly. I'd love to be able to talk to one of the ex-members of Thin Lizzy that's still around, whoever's still around. I'd like to be
I
able to,
think Jerome is in Dublin. He moved to Dublin a long time ago.
yeah, yeah, that would be nice to be able to rehash some of those. Well, moving back a couple of years to 1976, you played on Jade Warrior's Kites album that I mentioned in the
Yeah.
intro. I'm a fan of Jade Warrior for some time now, and I have to show it. I have the CD. There it
Oh,
is.
lovely.
Yeah, I got that not too long ago, actually. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah. I
That
love
was
the. Go
that
ahead.
was that was the session that actually got me the deal with Gail's Vision.
Is
That
that right? Okay.
started me on the road. But you
Is
might
that
like to know that I've also played on the Thin Lizzy album, Nightlife.
okay? Okay. Yes, I may have that one. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you
But
go ahead?
basically, basically, when I finished the session for Jade Warrior,
Uh-huh.
John Field, the flautist, took me aside and he said, "Do you write music?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And he said, "Well, um, maybe you'd like to do an album." And I thought, "Bloody hell, this is great!" I said, "Yes, of course." So basically, him and Tom Newman, who was involved in Tubular Bells,
Yes,
had
yeah.
sort of production deal going with Decca at the time, and they were just firming the whole thing up.
Okay.
And then I got a call about a month later from John to say, "Would you like to come down to the studio uh, and do some demos?" Because we got the production deal. And so I did. I did the first track on the album and a track called Warriors on the album. And that basically got me a deal. I mean, they brought it into Decca on Monday morning about 10 o'clock. Hugh Mendel was the man involved then, gentleman. And by the afternoon, I had a deal.
Wow.
And basically the deal was go into a studio and record, and don't spend what you have to, and don't play us anything you're not interested in
Okay.
or that you don't like.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
So that was, I mean, that was an open checkbook for me.
I was gonna say that was nice of them to
Yeah.
do that. Yeah. Yeah.
Hugh Mendel was a gentleman.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good. There were some good labels out there. There were some shady ones too, but there were there were some good ones.
Yeah. I mean, by the time the album was finished,
Yeah.
through knowing people in Bolton, Bolton knew Bill Smith and Theodore Thunder because they were in a band called Wide Open up in Bolton, Lancashire, before Bolton moved to London. And he suggested these people, and we just we sat down, had a chat, did a bit of rehearsal, and that was it really. That was the people I wanted on the album. Plus,
Yeah.
of course,
Okay.
David Lennox and Rory. Rory,
Yeah. Yeah.
Rory
Yeah.
was unbelievable. I mean, he came down to the studio with some beer, an amp,
Yeah.
his Martin acoustic, and his Strat, and he just played what I asked him to do. And at the end of it all, I said to him, "How much do I owe you?" Because I had money at that stage, a lot of it. He wouldn't hear of it. He wouldn't hear of any payment.
Really? Really?
Yeah.
So you didn't contact him. He just kind of he showed
Oh
up.
no, I knew
Oh, yeah.
Rory
You knew
from
him.
because
Okay.
I used to jam in '72 at the Marquee with Rory. Whenever he was in town, he'd call me up to have a blow with him.
Okay. Okay. So you knew him from going back. Well, that's a nice feather in your cap to have him play on that album
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, Roy. Could you see even at that time the talent that was there? I mean, you knew the talent. Yeah, and what he would become as premier blues guitar player.
Oh yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. It was already manifesting itself. Yeah.
Also, if I could interject at this stage and say that
Sure.
another album I played on was a Henry McCullough from the Grease Band and Wings.
Wings that went on to play. Yes, exactly.
Henry was the original guitar player with Wings.
Yes, he was. Yes, he
And
was.
I don't think he got on with Paul McCartney too well. He wouldn't talk about it.
Okay.
But we but I
Yeah.
remember I met him one because I knew Henry from Ireland as well. Another one of the Irish bands from Northern Ireland used to come to Limerick, and I
Yeah.
got to know Henry. And I was in the Speakeasy one day, which was the late night watering hole for all the musicians in London after you did your gig or whatever. And he said, I'm expecting to get a deal with Dark Horse, which was George Harrison's label at the time, God rest him. And he said, I'd like you to come and do some work on it. So I thought no more about it. I said, sure, Henry, And I got a call one morning, 9 o'clock, and it's Henry on the phone. And he said, remember I told you about the album? I said, yeah. He said, well, I'm in the Who studio in Battersea at the moment. He said, I'd like you to come and do some work. And I said, sure, Henry. When? He said, now.
Now.
So I got to the studio, and there's a big, like, in front of the big glass window, there's a crate of Newcastle Brown. And
Yeah.
Henry pointed to the crate and he said, there's your breakfast.
Drink your breakfast, huh? Yeah, a liquid breakfast. Oh, that's funny. Wow. Oh, I like those stories. I like those. Well, speaking of Rory, I have an upcoming chat with Jerry McAvoy. Do you know Jerry?
Oh, give him my regards.
Okay, I thought you guys might know each other. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
We had many of the drunken night together at the end.
Okay.
We did 2 support tours for Rory.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
And then, of course, I got to know all of them. And I stayed with Rod Diaz for about 4 months while I was waiting for a flat to come up for myself in London.
Yeah. 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 So that's coming up. Yeah. He was in Rory's touring band. Yeah.
In fact, Jerry played on a DVD I did in Ghent, in Belgium, while we're waiting to put Gail's Vision out. And actually, Jerry was in Ghent.
Okay.
And he ended up on the video with 2 Belgian musicians who had nothing to do with the album or just miming. But Jerry is on that. Remind him of that.
Okay.
I've got the pics to prove it.
You've got it. You got. I'm going to make a note of that right here so I can do that. Ghent, the Ghent gig in Ghent. Yes. Gig in Ghent. Jerry, to tell Jerry. Okay. Yeah. All right, with Joe O'Donnell. Got it. I'll be sure and mention that to him. Yes. Well, Joe, also, you might have brought this up just a bit ago. Steve Bolton would also play on the album. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, he was
In
also.
fact, Bolton was in the band, the Vision band. We did, and the tours we did with Rory and other gigs. Bolton's a great guitar player, really nice guy.
Yes.
And I stayed with Bolton again. I was waiting for a flat in London. I stayed with Bolton for a few months, and that was great. We just used to listen to Frank Zappa quite a lot.
Yes, he had a lot of interesting stories to tell, Steve. Steve did.
Oh, yeah.
Well, in 2004, the album was re-released with extra tracks.
Yes.
So that was nice to do that, and get for a younger or for a newer audience too, probably, and get that exposure out there, Well, how did you come up with the name Call a Doctor for your band?
I have no idea, my dear. It was just those things. I thought it was sort of quite catchy,
Yeah.
This is years ago in London. But again, Litherland, as you know, was the guitar player then.
Yes.
And of course we had 2 different drummers. One was Clive Bunker from Tull.
Oh, yeah.
And the other one was Ted McKenna from Rory Gallagher. And Alex Harvey Band.
Yes. Oh man.
I
Sensational Alex Harvey Band. Yeah.
I remember the first rehearsal we had with Ted. We just started playing, and Ted started up, and the volume of the drums just blew me away, because he'd been playing with Gary Moore quite a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a brilliant drummer, but he
Yeah.
was loud.
Yeah. How did he get that loudness? That's
Just from playing with Gary, from being used to playing with Gary a lot, because Gary wasn't shy when it came to volume, God rest him.
Yes, yes, exactly. Yes.
Incidentally, Gary played with Brand New Intentions for a while.
Right, he did. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. That was after you, right? Wasn't that at the
Yeah.
I believe. Okay. Yeah, and James, you mentioned James Litherland. Yeah. Again, I talked to him. God, it's been 2 years ago now. Yeah,
Wow.
visited with him. Yes, I'm making the rounds, Joe. I'm making the rounds.
You're certainly getting there, yeah.
Yeah. And then another of your bands, Yantan Tether.
Yeah, that's apparently that's a Yorkshire way of counting sheep. 1, 2, 3.
Oh, Yantan Tether. Okay, that's how you do it. Oh, I'd never heard that one. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought it was ironic. But
Yeah.
the keyboard player, well, that was James Litherland again, and the keyboard player was a guy called Fiacre Trench, who played in a jazz rock band called If in the 1970s.
Yes, I have one of theirs. I think they're best of. I think.
Well,
Yeah.
he was a keyboard player, but I think he ended up doing string arrangements for Van Morrison.
Okay. Okay. Wow. A lot of people have gone through the ranks playing with Van Morrison. Yes. Yes. Quite a
I
few.
got around it.
Yeah, that's right. Yes. Well, what was the Electric Ceilidh Band? What was that?
The Electric Ceilidh Band came about basically because I was in a band called New Celeste, which was a Glasgow band.
Okay. Okay.
And I used to commute from London up to Scotland to do. They did a lot. I mean, we did huge amounts of work in France and Britain in particular. And a guy called Neil Campbell, who was an absolutely excellent guitar player, was the guitar player I'd heard about from the second inversion of East of Eden, who I joined about some years afterwards, East of Eden 4. We put another East of Eden together, Jeff Allen and Davy Jack, the original bass player, and a guy called Les Binks or Les Davidson on guitar. And Les Davidson told me about this guitar player from Skye, and he reckoned he was a genius. So when we needed a guitar player in New Celeste, we got in touch with Campbell, and he joined the band and did some tours with us. And that's how the Electric, he was then, after he left New Celeste, he joined this band called the Electric Ceilidh Band in Glasgow while he was a student there. And I just got a call from him to say, we'd like you to play on some things. Would you come up and do? So I did an EP with them. And then we did some tours.
Yeah. Did you enjoy that time?
I did. It was great, except the tour of Scotland. We did a tour of the islands of Scotland, and it just rained every day but one.
Oh.
And I mean, when it rains in Scotland, it knows how to do it.
Yeah, I've heard stories.
Yeah.
It's a
great
yeah.
Good players, you know.
Yes, yes.
If you've heard of a band called Gaodhal.
How do you spell that?
No. Cado.
Uh-huh.
Belle. Gaodhal. Maggie Riley was the singer who ended up with My Goldfield on Moon Shadow.
Oh yes, yes. That's a beautiful song. That's a beautiful
The
song.
drummer, the drummer from Gaodhal was in the Ceilidh Band, Davy
Oh,
Roy.
okay. Yes. That's one of my favorites of, yeah, is Moonshadow. That is one of my favorites. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Cato Bell. Okay. I'll, I'll look into that too as well. Yeah.
Funny
Nice.
how it all comes round.
Right. It does. It does. And it's interrelated. And yeah, you make that full circle thing. Yes. Yes, it does. It really does. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
how did you meet and begin playing with Alan Stivell?
Um, I knew some guys in London that were they were sort of artistic people, as it were. One of them was a sax player, and they used to have a blow outside London every Friday. So I went out and did a couple of blows, and I got to know them quite well. And this day, they just got a call to say, we're going to Ireland, because I lived near Island Studios in Portobello Road at the time. And I got
Okay.
a call to say that they're going to meet this Breton musician called Alistair Bell.
Okay.
And I met him. He was doing the live in Dublin. He was mixing the Live in Dublin album at Island Studios at the time, and we kept in touch. Every time he came to London, I'd go down to see the band, and we'd have a drink afterwards and whatever. And we were doing a benefit for one of the big pubs in London. That the musicians' pub. It had a fire, and he came over to do it, and we ended up playing together.
Okay. That's how it brought you all together.
Yeah,
Okay.
more or less, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, talk about Shkayla, how that began, and how would you describe the band's sound? Yeah.
Celtic Celtic jazz rock.
Okay. And
Um,
how did
well,
that all start? How did that all begin?
well, I was living in Guernsey, married at the time, and my marriage was falling apart, basically. And I was considering coming back to the UK.
Okay.
And these two friends of mine that I met I was playing at a session in Guernsey, and these two people I got to know later on came up to me and said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "Well, I'm sort of semi-retired, and I'm married here." And they said, you should be in England." So I got a call from a guy called Martin Jenkins, who was a band called Whippersnapper.
Yeah, and Dando Shaft.
And Dando Shaft. I got a call from him to say, "I'd be really interested in playing with you if you want to."
Yeah.
So I moved. He was in Coventry. I was considering moving to London, but then I got in touch with Coventry University, and I was going to do a music degree here. I'd done the audition and all for Bob Ramskill, and when I got to Coventry, eventually, I couldn't do the music degree because we were busy gigging. I just didn't have time to study.
Yeah.
So, and he was there. We played with him and his son for about a year and a half. But Martin Jenkins wanted to go in one direction, and I wasn't too keen on going in that direction. So we started part of company, and then I got to know a guitar player called Dave. Gosh, I can't. I'll remember it in a minute. And he suggested a keyboard player called Martin Barter. So that was the start. We were working as a trio, and they were also working in a sort of a covers band. And then the bass player from the covers band started to do some work with us. And then we got various drummers who were involved in reasonably big bands in Coventry, and ended up with this current lineup, which is a fantastic band. You met Adrian on bass, and a lady called Karen Milne on drums. She's fantastic.
Okay. Well, going back, I want to interject. Martin, who was in Dando Shaft, I interviewed Kevin Dempsey 3 years ago. You know Kevin. I'm sure you know him.
here last night and we mentioned it. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So you see how it becomes circular.
It does. It does. I'm going to eventually interview all of you guys, hopefully. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He was super nice guy, super nice.
He's a really good guitar. He's a great guitar
Yeah,
player. Yeah.
yes. So
It's
versatile. Yeah, he is.
I've just finished
Sure.
doing. I'm just finished doing two solo albums, one a traditional and one an electric, and he's on a couple of the tracks, Kevin
Oh, is
Dempsey,
he?
as well
Okay.
as all the guys in the band, of course.
Is he? Is he? Was he working or has he been working lately with, was it Matty Pryor? Was he
And no, he's
Kevin?
worked with the singer from
Was it,
Pentangle.
yes, it was a folk singer. Yes. I'm
It's not
trying.
Maddie Pryor was in Steel Eye.
Yeah, she was in Steel Eye. Oh, well, Jackie McShay. Yeah, yeah,
That's it.
yeah. That's it. Yes, yes, that's the one.
Take Three Girls.
Yes, yes, yes.
Famous song in the television show. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Well, in 2006, you performed an updated version of Gale's Vision, and
Yeah.
it was issued on CD and DVD. Yeah.
Yeah.
In 2008 came the album Celtic Cargo,
Yeah.
and that got some nice reviews. Yeah.
Again, this is the band. We had a different drummer then, who's since gone to do other things.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was fun to do. We did that in where was that? That was Colin Hewlett's studio, wasn't it? Yeah, yeah, and that was with, of course, the other bass player Mark, who incidentally is on the new album as well as is Adrian.
Okay.
Yeah, we were very pleased with it, but to be honest, it's difficult being a Celtic jazz rock band. It is difficult,
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
though the players are absolutely excellent.
Yes. Yes. I, well, well, in 2013, into the becoming.
Yeah,
I like that title. I do like that title. Yeah.
that's. I think it's a Navajo expression. They don't have an expression for past, present, and future.
Okay.
They have a different way of looking at time. You walk into the becoming, as it were, which is the future.
Yes. I like that. I didn't
Yeah,
realize that came from a Navajo. Okay.
I think it's Navajo. Now, don't quote me on that, but it's definitely an American Indian tribe.
Okay, it is a tribe that said, okay, wow. I do like that. I do like that. Uh, and then let me ask you the musical response to the devastation of Coventry during World War II, did that come to fruition?
Blimey, I'm just finishing it at the moment.
Okay, okay. Then I'm ahead of myself here.
No, I'm surprised by the amount of work that you've done. It is incredible.
Well, I try to do my research. I try.
You do much more than that, my dear. You go way beyond that.
Well, yeah, I've had different responses doing this. Somebody will say, "How did you know about that?"
Yeah, surprised. I mean,
Yeah,
that that was one of Coventry's best kept secrets.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's good. How far are you in the progress?
Well, I'm just waiting now to do some solos and one drum track, and then I hope to mix and master it, and that'll be ready. But in the meantime, as I said, I've got two solo albums, one traditional, electric traditional, and one electric, which are songs and tunes I've written myself, and that should be out in a couple of months. One of the albums, the traditional album, is called Flags of Convenience, and the electric album is called Brave Banners.
Okay, okay. There was a band called Flag of Convenience, I believe, back
I don't know.
back during the 80s, I think it was. I think it was. I was, yeah, Convenience band, yeah. Looking at it real quick. Yeah, it was oh yeah, it was former Buzzcocks members Steve Diggle and John Mayer. from
All right.
the Buzzcocks. Yeah, I knew that band. That name sounded familiar. Yeah, back in during the '80s. Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah. But that's interesting. Well, good for you. Good for you, Joe. So you're still active playing with Shkayla. Uh,
Yeah, I'm still shuffling around.
well, don't shuffle off to the mortal coil yet. Don't.
This, my dear, they'll have to drag me off.
Kicking and screaming. Yes, yes.
Yeah,
I like that attitude, Joe. Good for you. Good for you.
thank
Well,
you.
and you're still enjoying it. Yeah.
It's sort of savage amusement.
Okay, okay. I like that. A good way to put it. Yeah. Well, you get some good, good turnout for the live shows,
Yeah, generally, yeah,
Yeah.
we've done quite a few festivals, and we've managed to kick some arses here and there. Yeah,
Yes, okay. Well,
and of
good for
course,
you.
the musicians in the band, all of them are really nice people and great players.
Yes, yes. Right. Yes.
Right. And of course, we got the the child prodigy of Coventry on guitar, Cy Hayden,
Oh, okay.
who's he plays a bit like Beck with his fingers rather than a pleck.
Oh, right, right. Oh man, yes. Jeff has come up so many times during the interviews. Jeff,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
how influential he was. Innovative. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, well. Can you think of anything else that we've might have
I think I
overlooked?
just about covered everything there. You've even covered me.
Well, somebody's got to do that, right?
I'm really pleased there are people like you around, and I'm really grateful that you've taken the time to do all this.
Oh, well, you're very welcome, very welcome. And Adrian, before we go, I want to thank you again for helping set all this up.
It's a pleasure.
Yes, yes.
And I've been sitting here and I've learned quite a bit about Joe.
Of course, this will now be used against me in the future.
Oh, that's right. See, that's right. You got to be careful there, Joe. That's right.
And you'll notice not one loo break.
All right. Well, thank you again, Joe and Adrian, both of you guys, and it's been very enjoyable. Again, thanks for sharing all those memories and going back, and you know what I say, going back in the time machine, taking a trip in that time machine. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Incidentally, that guitar player whose name I couldn't mention,
Yeah.
guitar player Dave Perry.
Oh, okay, okay.
But anyway, he's I have no idea where he is these days.
Okay.
But he was another great guitar player.
Okay. All right. Dave Perry. Got it. Got it. All right.
Thank you much.
Oh, you're very welcome, and all the best to you and Adrian, both of you guys, and continued, press on keeping on. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, all right. And all the best to you. I'll send you guys. I'll send to Adrian a copy of this probably next weekend, probably when I do a little editing. Shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be.
Thank you.
Brilliant. And
right.
send an address, and I'll get that over.
Oh, I'll do that. I'll do that. And you have a good rest of the weekend. Well, not much left for you guys, is it?
That's all right. I mean, the less time shuffling, the better.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. I got you. All right.
Very much.
Again, Joe, all the best to you, and keep in touch, and I'll send you that.
Thank you so much.